a descendant of the guy who had kicked out Rome's very last king centuries before. So in his mind, he honestly believed that by killing his friend, he was saving the very soul of the Roman Republic from a tyrant.
And their plan was just as bold as their belief. This wasn't going to be some murder in a dark alley. Nope, they were going to kill Caesar openly, in the Senate, on the Ides of March. They wanted it to be seen not as an assassination, but as an act of state, almost like a patriotic execution. So, as the Ides of March finally dawned, the vibe in Rome was just spooky. It was as if the universe itself was trying to scream a warning at Caesar about what was about to happen.
I mean, listen to this. Weeks earlier, a soothsayer had literally stopped him in the street and told him, "Beware the Ides of March." The night before, his wife Calpurnia had this horrible nightmare that he was murdered, and she begged him not to go to the Senate. Even his close friends were urging him to just stay home. All the signs were there, all pointing to absolute disaster.
And the craziest part, he almost listened. For a moment, Caesar actually decided to stay home and call off the meeting. But then, one of the conspirators, a man he thought was in his inner circle, came to his house and lured him out. He completely played on Caesar's ego, telling him the Senate was waiting to give him more honors, and that staying home would make him look weak and superstitious. And Caesar, well, he didn't want to seem foolish, so he walked right into their trap. Okay, so Caesar arrives at the Senate. On his way in, he sees that same soothsayer again, and he kind of jokes, "Well, the Ides of March have come," and the soothsayer just says, "I, Caesar, but not gone." He goes inside, takes his seat, and then the conspirators make their move. The self-proclaimed republic was about to strike back.
They all crowd around him, pretending to present him with a petition. Then, suddenly, one of them grabs his toga and yanks it down. That's the signal. Another senator whips out a dagger and lunges, striking the first blow. Caesar is shocked. He tries to fight back, but then another one comes, and another. It's just bloody chaos, and then, in the middle of it all, he sees him, Brutus, his friend, with a dagger raised. It's at that moment, the stories say, that he uttered his famous last words, "Et tu, Brute? You too, child?" And he just stopped resisting. He covered his face with his toga and fell, dying at the base of the statue of his great rival, Pompey.
23. That's the number. The autopsy later showed that he'd been stabbed 23 separate times. Just a brutal, savage end for the most powerful man in Rome. The daggers fall silent. The senators are standing there, covered in blood. And in that moment, there's this feeling of triumph. They think they've won. But what follows is one of the greatest and most tragic ironies in all of history: the accidental empire. Brutus and the others raise their bloody daggers and they start shouting, "Freedom, liberty, tyranny is dead." They run out into the streets, expecting the people of Rome to praise them as heroes. They genuinely, 100%, believed they had just saved the Republic. But they could not have been more wrong. I mean, the gap between what they intended to do and what actually happened is just staggering. Their goal was to save the Republic, but the result was creating an empire. They wanted to restore freedom, but they ended up sparking another, even bloodier civil war. They tried to prevent one man from becoming a king, and in doing so, they paved the very road that led straight to an emperor. Because in the huge power vacuum that Caesar's death created, a new leader rose out of the chaos. It was Caesar's own grandnephew and adopted son, Octavian. And after years of more brutal war, he would take the name Augustus and become Rome's very first emperor, holding way more absolute power than Caesar ever dreamed of.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole tragedy. The conspirators, they succeeded in their immediate goal. They killed the man, Julius Caesar. But they completely failed to kill the idea he represented, the idea that one person could hold all the power. In fact, their actions only made that idea inevitable. And it leaves us with this big question that echoes all the way through history, from ancient Rome right up to today. What happens when you use violence to get rid of a leader you see as a dictator? Do